Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to today's webinar, Email Automation and the New Buyer's Journey. I'm Megan Sullivan of Kuno Creative, and I'm really excited about this webinar because I think it's a little bit different than anything you've probably seen before. In collaboration with our partner, TowerData, we've been able to connect the dots between customer data, email marketing, and marketing automation. So with that, let me introduce our speakers today, Tom Burke, the CEO of TowerData, and Chris Knipper, the CEO of Kuno Creative. Gentlemen, take it away.
Thanks, Megan. This is Tom Burke from TowerData, and as Megan mentioned, I am CEO. And TowerData is an email data services provider. If you could go to the next slide, please. What we do is we help marketers improve their contact databases by validating their email list for better deliverability, appending email addresses to extend their marketing reach, and providing email intelligence to improve personalization.
Great, thanks Tom. This is Chris Knipper. I'm the CEO of Kuno Creative. We're an enterprise inbound marketing agency. We've been working with Tom for almost a year now, and our main focus has always been on content marketing, demand generation, and marketing automation. So as we got to know each other better over the past year, we really became excited about the synergies between our two companies, and that's one of the reasons we decided to put this webinar together, is we really thought there were some missing pieces. There were people doing inbound marketing that were not thinking about the types of solutions that TowerData offers with the validation appended intelligence. And so the main theme of the webinar today is to talk about the new buyer's journey, starting with the things that TowerData provides and then being completed by the different services that Kuno provides. So that being said, I hope you enjoy it, and we'll go ahead and jump right in. One other thing I wanted to mention is you can put questions in the chat box, and we will be collecting all those questions and responding to them all. We'll probably do it by email and also by posting blogs about it. And at the end of the webinar, you'll notice that we're going to give you our personal email addresses so you can contact us with questions that way as well. And lastly, I did want to mention that today's webinar will be recorded, and we will be publishing information about how to access that recording and also the slide share. So I'll turn it back over to Tom, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Thanks, Chris. Well, today's webinar is going to be divided into two parts, like Chris said. I'll be starting out talking about email deliverability, and he'll be covering the new buyer's journey in the second part. I'll lead off by going through some of the facts about email marketing today, but we'll also be talking about some of the challenges that email marketers face. Then we'll cover some tactics for list growth, acquiring new email addresses, before diving into email deliverability and 5 steps for having success with it, which will greatly improve the results of your email campaigns.
And that's going to tie in very nicely with the buyer's journey, talking about where do we go beyond that with email marketing. We'll talk a little bit about workflows, which are a really common component when you're talking about marketing automation, and then take a few steps even into the future about some of the exciting things that are happening with personalization and really catering to that experience of the buyer as they go through the life cycle stages.
So this is Tom again, and now let's talk about the need for email. Is email still relevant? And the answer is really a resounding yes. Even today's buyers are doing a lot of their shopping and making a lot of purchase decisions online. And 61% of buyers will use search engines to research products online, but not all of those visitors are actually converting to customers right away. Up to 50% of the qualified leads who visit your site aren't ready to buy. So email is an essential tool for converting those leads that aren't ready yet. This page is showing some statistics to prove that email is alive and well. First, email customers have a 12% higher value than social media customers. And then almost 1/3 of repeat customers are initiated by email messages. My favorite statistic is the last one here. There are 3 times as many email accounts than there are Facebook and Twitter accounts combined. This goes to show you that even though there's a lot of buzz around social media, email is still the preferred channel of communication. But email isn't as simple as pressing send. It does present challenges to the email marketer. First off, it can be difficult to obtain email addresses from existing customers and visitors to your website. People feel they already get too much email, and so they're not going to readily hand over their email address. Secondly, mail must be delivered to your customers' inboxes in order for them to have an opportunity to open and act on it. Getting into those inboxes depends on your deliverability, and being relevant to subscribers' interests impacts whether they respond to your messages. Finally, people change their email addresses often. Up to 25% of lists churn each year, adding to deliverability challenges and driving a continual need to acquire new email addresses.
And that 25%, Tom, is just a staggering statistic. You know, as we're working with our clients at Kuno, they're constantly coming to us and saying we have these large lists and we've gathered information from trade shows and events and all kinds of different methods, but a large percentage of those emails were bad before they even came to us, and they don't even realize it. So even with a good email list, and we have a pretty good one ourselves, we expect that, you know, a minimum of that 20 to 25% churn a year. So that's a kind of a nice segue into, you know, this part that you put together about improving the marketing results by addressing some of these common email deliverability issues.
Sure. Let's get started with those. So what's the first part of a successful email marketing program? Well, you need to begin with an email list. Because if you don't have any emails, well, you're not going to get very far, obviously. So this is an ongoing challenge for email marketers in terms of tactics for list growth. So what's the best way to approach this? Start by asking for email addresses at every touch point, on your website, in your stores, at your call center, in your direct mail pieces and at trade shows, and also obviously when you're communicating with followers on your social media accounts. And every time that your employees are interacting with a prospect or customer, ask for that address. But as I mentioned before, people need an incentive to provide their contact information. And the best way to do that is providing valuable and relevant content. People are willing to trade their contact information for something they value. For a B2B marketer, this could be a white paper or an ebook, while for a retailer it could be a discount offer or a sweepstakes of some sort. And you also want to make it easy for people. Put subscription buttons and lead forms everywhere and make them prominent. You could also use social media sign-on your website, and you'll get email address as a side benefit. And as part of your newsletter, consider including a forward a friend feature to make sure that people can share your content and attract other subscribers.
Lots of great ideas there, especially the social media sign-on. A lot of people don't even think of those types of options. Tell us some more about the list growth opportunities, specifically the things that you see at Tower.
Sure. Well, some of the tactics we reviewed on the last slide really are organic tactics that we highly recommend, but they take time, and there is an alternative. If you have an existing customer database that lacks email addresses, another approach is using email append. TowerData provides a service where we can match your existing postal customers with our opt-in email database. And for a business database, we can find email addresses for approximately 15% of a list. And for a consumer list, we can find emails for 25% on average. As part of this process, we'll send an email requesting the permission of your customers to be contacted by you via email. And we'll deliver the results within 14 days, which is obviously a lot quicker and more cost-effective than some of those other tactics we discussed.
And I can share a real-world example of something we just did over the past few weeks. One of Kuno Creative's clients was a cardiology practice, They were established, had been in business for a long time, many years, but unfortunately they needed to move to a new location. And so they were really concerned. They were moving to a new location, and at the same time, a competing cardiology practice was moving in pretty close to their old location. And of course, they were very concerned about what are we going to do to maintain these clients and let them know we're still here. A lot of our clients are older. They've never given us their email address. We're going to do some direct mail. Maybe we'll do some print advertising. But what can you do? So in this example, we did an export of their current customers for that geographical area. It was, in this example, 10,000, and we sent that list to TowerData. It actually didn't take 14 days, just a few days, but we were shocked. We were able to get just under 4,000 email addresses out of the 10,000, about a 40%. So we increased our email list by 4,000 in just a couple of days, and the best part about it is we knew they were our customers. And Tower, the client's first reaction was, oh gosh, we can't spam people, how are we going to do this? And Tower actually drafted the communications that were sent to that list to request their permission to communicate with them on an ongoing basis by email. So I just wanted to share that real-world example. They were just thrilled about that. So now we're doing an integrated campaign, sending them direct mail, sending them email, doing content marketing, combined with a few other things, and it's been extremely effective. And if you consider the value of one cardiology patient over the course of 5 or 10 years, it's extremely significant. So I just wanted to share that story. I'll turn it back over to Tom now.
Chris, appreciate you sharing that. That was a great project. So moving onward, once we have our email list in place, what's the next step? Well, you need to make sure that your email messages are getting delivered into the inbox. And this is the core challenge of email deliverability, because if people are not seeing those messages in the inbox, they don't have a chance to respond to them. And just in the last week or two, ReturnPath came out with a pretty disturbing statistic. 22% of marketing emails are not reaching inboxes. They monitored over almost a trillion email messages sent through more than 150 ISPs globally. And they found that 22% of those messages were either blocked or, 22% of those messages were even going to spam folders, or more commonly, not reaching their mailboxes at all. And that means those messages were either getting blocked or black holed by the ISPs, and that really highlights the challenge that we face with email deliverability. So what impacts your deliverability? It really depends on your email reputation, which is composed of 3 factors. Bounce rate, which is the number of hard and soft bounces as a percentage of the emails you send. Complaint rate, the percentage of people that click the "This is Spam" button on your mailings. And spam trap hits. Spam traps are email addresses created or recycled by anti-spam organizations or ISPs in order to identify and track spam messages. Even legitimate marketers can end up with traps on their lists, as the Gap discovered last year when Spamhaus blacklisted them, and that severely interrupted their deliveries. Now, ISPs take these different criteria and they use these metrics to determine how to treat your mail and whether they should be delivered. Your messages should be delivered to the inbox, the spam folder, or not be delivered at all. So let's talk about 5 steps that you can take to improve email deliverability. Step 1 is to set expectations. Inform subscribers of the type of content you're going to send them and at what frequency. If they think they're signing up for a monthly newsletter and they start receiving daily deals, they're very likely to click the spam button, which is going to hurt you. You also want to use an opt-in process. Make sure it's clear to people if they're filling out a form whether their email address is going to be added to your mailing list, and give them the opportunity to opt out. You also want to have the right balance of product-centric versus educational emails.
And Tom, that's the biggest challenges we have at Kuno, is working with our clients that want to do inbound marketing. A lot of them have a history of doing very product-centric, daily deal type of messaging. And it can be a tough sell to your marketing team to say, well, this time we really want to send some kind of educational piece at the top of the sales funnel and slowly nurture them into customers when they're ready. It takes more patience, but one of the benefits is you have fewer of these deliverability problems, as we're much less likely to receive those spam complaints when we're trying to help people.
Good point. Well, the next step would be to clean your list. For existing email addresses and for the new emails you're collecting, you should be validating and correcting them, which will greatly reduce your bounce rate. And email hygiene services can also help you to block spam traps and and addresses from getting on your list, again, to improve your deliverability. You should also take the opportunity to update your out-of-date emails. As I mentioned, people change email addresses frequently, up to 25% per year, and an email change of address service can replace outdated emails with current ones for your customers. Finally, purge the zombies. And by zombies, I mean inactive addresses, addresses that are not responding to your messages. ISPs such as Gmail are measuring engagement as one of the factors that affect deliverability, so you want to segment out those inactives and try to reactivate them. We actually provide an email intelligence service that can help to identify the inactives that are most likely to respond to a reactivation campaign. But if they still aren't responding, well, it's time to kill the walking dead.
How far back should you go on that inactive status?
It's really going to depend on the type of business you have and messages. I mean, I would definitely say, at a minimum 90 days. But, some people, especially if they have a long history, start with a year, or 6 months. You don't want to throw out good addresses, obviously. Some people may not have found the offer that they're going to respond to yet. So you need to be careful and don't want to obviously lose revenue, but you have to balance that with the needs for having good deliverability as well. Step 3 is to use the right infrastructure. So this is more technical in nature, and if you're managing your own email systems, you want to be sure to establish feedback loops. You set these up with the ISPs and so that they notify you when someone clicks the spam button on one of your messages. You also want to enable authentication on your outgoing email. There are protocols such as SPF and domain keys and DKIM that you can set up so that they'll certify that the messages you send come from you, and so that the ISPs will receive them. You also want to warm up new IP addresses. Anytime, usually we recommend that you have dedicated IP addresses for sending your mail so you're not impacted by other senders. And then when you're starting to use a new IP address, it doesn't have a reputation. So ISPs are sort of cautious about the mail that they will receive from it. So you want to start out slowly, sending a low volume of mail on a regular basis, using some of your best email data and some of your best offers, and then ramp up from there until you've established a good reputation. Similarly, you want to use different IP addresses for distinct type of messages. For transactional messages, you want to make sure that they get through because they have valuable confirmation notices, typically speaking. So you should send them separately from your marketing newsletter, for example. Generally speaking, though, I recommend that you don't deal with these issues on your own and that you work with an email service provider that has a deliverability team, and they can take care of this for you.
Good point.
On to step 4, mail consistently. If people are surprised to see your messages, they're more likely to treat them as spam. So start off, as soon as someone fills out a form on your website, send them a message immediately, and recommend using a welcome series, which also helps to set expectations about the type of content they're going to receive. And then you want to establish a regular schedule of mailings, at least once a month, so that people don't forget that they're on your mailing list and are surprised by your messages. And a great way to implement this is utilizing automation. the last step here we're going to cover today is one of the most important, and it's to be relevant. Your messages should address the interests and needs of your subscribers, or they're not going to respond. The best way to tackle this is through personalization. You can use behavioral or demographic characteristics to determine what a person may be interested in. So, for example, you can look at what product or service they browsed on your website, which of your previous emails did they open, or from the demographic side, what is their age, gender, or where do they live. You don't want, for example, you don't want to advertise the Yankees baseball caps to someone in Boston because you know you're not going to get the sale there. So, some of these characteristics you can obtain by studying traffic on your website, or otherwise you can, or profiling your customers or pending demographics. Now, once you have these attributes, you want to segment your list into various groups and then target your messages to the interest of each of those groups. In a survey by the e-tailing group, 41% of people surveyed said they would buy more from brands that send them personalized email. It's really a tactic you can't ignore. And another way to segment business leads is by their position in the sales funnel. Chris, you probably have something to add on that.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's the complete buyer's journey that we keep talking about, and you start off with the personalization and the segmentation, but then you really start thinking about what thought process they're going through at that time. They've already absorbed certain pieces of content at the top of your funnel. Are they more interested now in finding out specifics, more product-centric specifics about your product or services, or cost comparisons, referrals from other people that have already made a similar buying decision? So if you start to identify what level they're at in that sales funnel, then all these pieces come together and you'll see a significant increase, not in just your deliverability rate, but also your conversion rate and your conversion to customer rate. As a matter of fact, we'll start by going into a few examples here, and I'll have Tom start off with one here that he can share.
Great, thanks. So last year, we did a list clean for Guitar Center. They had a list of about approximately 3.5 million email addresses, and they were experiencing some deliverability issues. They were mailing in-house. And they also, because of email churn and having lost a number of email addresses, they wanted to see if they can increase their revenues by replacing some of those email addresses they'd lost. So, next slide. We ran their list through our hygiene and validation services, and we identified over 90% of the bad emails on their list. This actually turned out to be over 1 million emails on their 3.5 million list. Another real benefit was that we corrected or replaced 13% of their invalids. This was a combination of fixing syntax and spelling errors that were caused by data entry onto their list, and also updating those out-of-date emails with our email change address service. And we, in presenting our results to Guitar Center, was very detailed and transparent. We used over 30 different codes to show the disposition of the addresses on their list so they could really understand the problems that they were facing and how to address those. The end result was we improved their email reputation by lowering their bounce rate and their complaint rate, and we improved their inbox delivery, resulting in greater success in their email campaign. So, in summary, what are the benefits of good email deliverability? First off, higher inbox placement, which translates to higher open rates. If people are opening, then they'll have a chance to click and respond to your messages. And if you're being relevant, you're going to have fewer unsubscribes. Again, this all leads to increased revenues and a more successful email program. So now let's turn to the next stage of achieving email success in developing personalized, relevant content and automating it. And Chris is going to speak to part 2.
Yeah, that's great. So the second part is starting with improving all the things Tom talked about, but what happens next? one of the buzzwords that's become really popular in the industry is everybody's talking about automation. And it's not that automation is brand new. It just has become more common even for small, medium-sized businesses. And the biggest problem I see with automation right out of the gate is people want to automate things that aren't working correctly. And that begins with all the improvements to the email list in the first place with the segmentation and the personalization. But usually the thing that's most common that we see is they're not creating what we call top funnel content. And so I thought I'd just, before I even give you the definition of marketing automation, you think about the sales funnel image you're looking at here. What's top funnel content? It's those educational and helpful blog posts and social media posts and the free downloads that you put out, and ebooks, white papers, videos, all that kind of stuff. Where a lot of people will come to an automation possibility and think, I'm going to jump right to the bottom. I want them to ask for a free consultation, request a quote, I need results today, and I'm going to automate that, and then a lot of times that fails. So thinking about the definition of marketing automation, it's pretty simple actually. It's delivering the right type of content to the right people at the right time. And then automating that process using multiple forms of communications. And those forms of communication can be cross-channel, but what's right at the top of the list is email, which is why we wanted to put these two things together to show this complete journey. People still live off of their emails, and they're either like you or they don't. So if you can start delivering the things they like when they want to get them, then you can really improve that flow through that sales funnel and increase revenues. And the best part about marketing automation when done correctly is it's measurable. It's something you can report on the balance sheet. So I talked about the top of the funnel. And where does automation usually begin? It's once we've got some leads at the top of the funnel. Most commonly, historically, automation is about getting them through the middle. Some people refer to this as lead nurturing, but this is that kind of demand generation that creates marketing qualified leads. What's a marketing qualified lead? It's somebody that is at least qualified for you to sell to. You might have many leads at the top of the funnel, but they might not necessarily be ready to buy from you or even the right kind of target, for down the road. So what we want to do with automation is start expanding that middle of the funnel. But what's the big problem that we still see? Is this guy right here. He's not thinking about marketing qualified leads. What do we see people doing in the past? They're thinking, well, just create a bunch of leads, and we're not really sure if they want to buy from us or not. But nevertheless, what are we going to do with them? We're going to send them to our sales team. So in the past, this is what we did. A large majority of the companies we talk to that are getting started with marketing automation, they tell us the same story over and over again. They say, well, our marketing and our sales teams, they're in separate buildings. They don't really like each other very much. Marketing says they're doing a good job. They're branding. They're creating leads. Boy, look at all these form conversions on the website. And the guys over in sales or people in sales, what do they say? Most of those leads aren't very good. They send us a large volume of qualified leads or unqualified leads. And we have to call them all, and it takes a lot of time, and it costs a lot of money, and it's a very small percentage that actually convert into customers.
I can actually add something here, Chris. We're a B2B marketer, and so it's not like we're dealing with thousands of leads a day. And our salespeople used to call every lead that came through our door, and that was time consuming. So now we've been working with Kuno for a while, and so we've implemented marketing automation, and we definitely have seen a bigger flow of leads coming through, and there are just too many for us to respond to. So we've implemented lead scoring, which indicates what stage people are at in the sales funnel. And so now for people that are sort of top funnel, not quite ready to buy, well, we're letting them help themselves at first, downloading different types of content. And then only when they're further along in the buying stage, then do we pick up the phone and interact with them. And this slide here shows some of the success that we're having, some of the tactics that Chris has mentioned and that Kuno has helped us put in place. We redesigned our website back in March and released it, and we're seeing fantastic results on our conversion rates. When we just opened up the doors, we were seeing conversion rates like 16.2%, but in the last couple months, we're over 35%. And just having fantastic success, and so now we really have to manage these leads better and how we communicate with them.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate that that recap. And you look at these conversion rates, and these are average conversion rates, but they're including both top funnel, kind of right on down the sales funnel, right, Tom?
Yes, exactly. So this has been there's multiple things that go into this. We've created a lot more content in the last 6 months, in ebooks and white papers, and we've created a lot more conversion opportunities on our website. Going back to my earlier point of ask for that email address, well, we weren't asking for it that much on our old website. Now we're asking for it all the time in many different places, and we're providing different types of content. So depending on where someone is in their buying process, whether they're just kicking the tires, they're really just sort of tendentially interested in the issues we're talking about, we have something for each stage of that buyer, and that's helping us build our email list and then nurture those leads into actual prospects and customers.
And it's really interesting. Another common question we get is, well, geez, how much money is that going to cost? Create all that content. Maybe we have to update some things on our website, set up all this marketing automation. We probably need software to do it. We need to spend money fixing our list, gathering email intelligence, and we've seen quite a range. Well, we see Fortune 500 companies. We tend to focus on the enterprise, and they'll have very significant budgets for marketing, and at the same time they'll budget very, very little for content creation. They just don't understand the value of that or marketing automation yet. And yet a recent Gartner research study points out when you do these things correctly, like Tom's doing, or a lot of these other people we're working with, you can expect to see some type of increase somewhere around 10% in revenue. So if you're a $100 million company and you can increase your revenues 10%, we're talking about a $10 million increase. Why wouldn't you be willing to think about the necessary resources for creating that content? It certainly doesn't cost as much as the return. So I just thought that was an interesting a report that Gartner put out and wanted to share it. And I want to give you a quick rundown too. If you're trying to get started with this and you're thinking, what steps should I follow? Here's a couple real easy steps. Start by thinking about a delivery schedule for your audience for that sales cycle. What kind of content is going to be mapped to each level of that sales cycle? Another step would be think about the personalization. Don't send out your nurturing emails with a one-glove-fits-all approach. There's so many easy ways now to make it seem like you're talking directly to that prospect. And then really think about personalizing the content too. Not just what's in the email, but the result of what they're going to receive if they take the necessary actions. And then all of a sudden, your perspective will go, wow, we addressed the top of the funnel. That's where we started on this journey a few slides ago. Then we started really thinking about our automation, and we addressed the middle of the funnel. And now we've treated people right. We've earned their trust and respect and developed that relationship and brought them along at the pace they wanted to come along. And now we can focus on the bottom of the funnel. And we'll see our significant improvements in our conversion rate.
Talking to that personalization, again, I mentioned earlier some tactics for obtaining characteristics of your prospects and customers from their behavior. But another way to do it is by using a service such as our TowerData email intelligence. What we can do there is we can append, based on email address, we can append demographics or firmographics to your email list to quickly enable that personalization. So you can find out age, income, location, whether someone is a new homeowner or something. And these are valuable characteristics that you can use to segment your prospects, or from a business side, company size, industry, number of employees. Also, as part of that, we can look at email addresses to see which are most responsive or are not. And we can identify subscribers, some of your inactives, as I mentioned earlier, that are most likely to respond to an offer, and also segment out the inactives that can be safely removed from your list.
That's great, and maybe I can share another example that ties right into that. It ties in again to that thinking about the audience, all their demographics, thinking about personalized content. About 60 days ago, we published this piece of content, and it's a piece called Storytelling: How to Acquire Customers in 3 Acts. And it's an attractive piece, but what was most attractive about it is we really created it for a very specific persona. And the results in the last 60 days were, it created 500 new leads in the last 60 days when we had over 1,000 downloads. So not only did we create brand new people, so we kind of even went to the top of the funnel, even when we were targeting, but we also took people who were in the middle and the bottom of the funnel and had 500 more engagements with this piece. And I'll show you quickly how we did it. We started with obviously the strategy and putting it together, but we started with creating the calls to action, just like Tom said. Ask for the emails. We have this in our blog posts we're publishing on the side of our blog page. We have it on different areas of our website. And we made it what we call a smart call to action. It's personalized. Not everybody sees the same call to action when they come to our website. It depends on their past behavior and what they were interested in. And then the next step is we created dynamic landing pages. Well, what's that mean? It means, well, we didn't treat everybody differently when they decided to interact on this form. We use smart forms, so we ask different questions to different people. And we don't ask people the same questions over and over and over again. If they're already in our sales funnel and we know there was certain company size and certain role, we might start asking about their CRM, or we might start asking about if they're hiring people for content marketing in the future. And we cater the responses in the additional content based on what they said their behaviors is. So the nice thing about the journey, again, is they come along. We don't know which path they're going to go down. They convert on this form, and they receive additional follow-up pieces to the story. And based on where they go and what they decide to consume is going to decide what additional pieces of the story they get. And finally, all those things combined, you just want to keep track of what's working. So I want to share really briefly what we call an inbound marketing scorecard. You put all these pieces together, and we talked about the top of the funnel, and you'll notice the left column here is life cycle stage, and it says leads in the column right to the right of that. And then you see marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads, opportunities, customers. And then what you really would like to do is make projections on what you think you can get accomplished if you follow the stuff that we talked about today. Set your target each month for leads, and if you hit your target, document it. Maybe it's green. You miss your target, it's red. Or maybe it's neutral, it's a tie, and it's yellow. And if you have an agreement between your marketing team and your sales team, and you say, what do you consider a good lead, a marketing qualified lead? We understand, we agree on that. Well, we're going to do whatever it's necessary from the marketing angle to make sure we deliver that quantity of leads to you each month. And if we do, then you'll be happy, and you'll know what percentage of those marketing qualified leads you're likely to turn into sales qualified leads, or into opportunities, or into customers or accounts. And if you want a copy of this scorecard or any of this type of information, feel free to email me or Tom after the webinar. We'll give you that information in a minute. We'll be glad to share that with you. Because the end result is what we're looking for is continuous improvement. To track these results, set our goals, be able to report those to our stakeholders, our board of directors, and give them a clear vision of what that buyer's journey truly looks like. So in summary, the complete buyer's journey, figuring out ways to acquire those email addresses, ask for them, improve your list, grow your list, achieve that good deliverability rate by doing the validation and all the things that Tom talked about. And then start automating. But remember, automate things that work. Don't automate an existing process just to say you're doing marketing automation. Really think about mapping that buyer's journey, the content to the right levels of the sales funnel. And then finally, deliver that relevant and personalized content to improve your conversion rates and improve your traffic to customer results. I'm going to turn it over to Megan to wrap things up here. And I appreciate everybody attending.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Tom. And thanks again to everyone that joined us today. I hope you learned a lot and that we were able to help you realize that customer data management and email marketing automation should not exist in silos like they can. They should really be working in concert with one another, and it'll drive so much success. So after the webinar, we welcome your questions. We have the email addresses up on the screen for Chris and Tom. You can email either one of them directly. We also wanted to point you to some additional resources that you can download. Those URLs are up on the screen as well. Tom talked about 5 steps to success for email deliverability. TowerData has published an ebook that actually has 21 steps. So if you want to get more information on email deliverability and how you can improve that for your company, download that ebook from TowerData. And from Kuno, if you want more information on personalized content, how to develop it, how to deliver it, you can download that ebook from Kuno Creative. We've also made a recording of this webinar. It'll be available on YouTube, and the slide deck will be available on SlideShare. So we will email links to both of those out to all of you after the webinar, so you'll be able to pull that information and review anything that was covered today. So thanks everyone again, and have a great rest of your day.